Is Control worth your time? Welcome to Classic Game Reviews, and today we will be figuring out if Control is a potential classic. So, is Control really worth your valuable time? Let's find out. This is my Control review. We will be talking narrative and gameplay design. Narrative. So let's get straight into this. If you aren't into very complicated and convoluted narratives, this game probably will not be for you, narratively wise. The story is complex while at the same time being very dumbed down. If you get invested into the story, it can provide some amazing moments simply because of the game's foundation. The very foundation of this game is beyond unique, so you can do anything with the narrative simply because of how creative the IP actually is. However, the pacing of the story is all over the place. There were plenty of times where the game could come to a painful halt. A game with such a foundation could have done a lot more with a lot less time, so if you don't have a lot of time to play through the game in just a weekend, it could be very easy to lose focus and completely forget what kind of story is even being told here. If you do have the time, you may find yourself invested into a story you could potentially love for years to come. Some of the quests end up being a variation of a fetch quest, and those kind of quests are so outdated at this point it became slightly more irritating to play through. There is a ridiculous amount of exposition as well, which can really kill the pacing and make you question why you're even playing this game.
Why?
A lot of the characters were very painfully underdeveloped, and motivations can be very confusing, but the story is a lot less about character and more about stakes and the world the developers have created, at least for me. My other issue is the ending. If you don't want to play through an 8-hour game for an unsatisfying ending, and if you have to have every plotline completely finished in a satisfying way, don't pick this game up. So, the narrative may not be an undeniable masterpiece, but it definitely does what it needs to do, and that is simply to keep the player engaged and make them forget they are doing busy work, and that leads me onto gameplay. Oh, if you got this far, maybe hit that like button and maybe even subscribe. It'll really help the channel out. So, if you aren't a story kind of gamer, the gameplay here will provide your wildest dreams. If you love particle effects, destruction, and all that, this game is perfect for you. The level of interactivity here is something to behold, and is the one thing I've been really impressed by consistently. The story is a mixed bag, but the gameplay blew me away. However, the main issue for me personally is the constant and unnecessary busy work, which drags the whole game down significantly. I'm not too sure why the developers chose to go down a Metroid Vania-esque design. I think the game would have benefited significantly if it was just pure linear game design with an occasional side quest that could unlock a specific skill and upgrade. On that note, the skill tree and upgrade system is great in my opinion. It's deep enough not to be considered bare bones, but not so deep that the system is considered overly complicated, which is a perfect balance for most of us, I think, and simplicity is underrated these days. This is a one-of-a-kind particle and destruction system. It really is incredible what the developers have done here, and Control is straight away a completely new experience and something I had never played before. It rivals a lot of Battlefield games, at least in its detail, with its destruction, and you know, it's close to Bad Company 2 level stuff right here, it blew me away. Another negative is the HUD, which is mainly the map. The map in this game is just awful and extremely irritating. The best kind of map for these games like this is really just to copy Jedi Fallen Order at this point, because it gives you all the information you need in a very simple way, whereas in Control you'll spend more time figuring out the map rather than actually figuring out how to take out the enemies more creatively and efficiently. That's another reason this game should have went more in the linear route, at least for me. Oh, and the blue health bar is pretty ugly. Weapon variety is decent, but not the best, but once again the game does enough to not drop your immersion and provide enough gameplay variety to keep you entertained. Each gun feels different and the sound design is great. You can also mod your weapons, but they aren't particularly useful in my opinion. The bosses are great when they appear, but are a bit too bullet spongy for my liking, but that is a very subjective gameplay mechanic. The powers are really the selling point for this game. There are plenty of great powers and are all unlocked at a great pace, offering a new refreshing loop to the gameplay which helps with the repetitive nature of the game design, so the variety of powers is great. Each power is incredibly unique and reminds me heavily of Star Wars The Force Unleashed. All of the powers really complement the particle system as well, because seriously, this game should not be on last gen consoles and run at a decent FPS. It's that good. Very clear that the developers are extremely proud of this system, and they should be. Games are about interactivity, yet almost all developers ignore the importance of interacting with the world you're exploring, and Control does that incredibly well. World building is around every corner, so if that is your thing, there are plenty of collectibles, many offering insight into the larger world and lore the developers have created, so if that's your thing, that's great. The atmosphere is also insanely good. These levels knock it out of the park because it really does pull you in, because of the amount of care that's that's been put in just in every single bit of detail of every part of the world, which is also extremely impressive again because you can basically destroy it all. I cannot praise the atmosphere and the destruction system enough. However, the AI can be very dumb, which can have a really negative impact on your experience if smart AI is quite important to you. I would honestly compare the AI to a Ubisoft game back in 2009, and that really is not a compliment. No microtransactions, no forced multiplayer, story driven, maximum care given, and gameplay is incredible most of the time. A great story with some generic moments and gameplay you can get addicted to if you can ignore the fetch quest design. That sounds like a potential classic to me. I absolutely think Control is worth your time, and now it's free on PlayStation Plus. Thank you for watching my Control review.